service Uber, 5 years old, valued at $50 billion. But the CEO says he's not close to bringing the company public. He said, we're in junior high. Someone's telling us we need to go to the prom, but it's a little early. Give us a few years. Give us a little time. With me now is someone who knows all about taking companies public. Adena Friedman is the president of the Nasdaq. Adena, great to see you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So Uber CEO Travis Kalanick told this crowd at the Wall Street Journal D conference, times have changed. There's a lot of money in the private markets. Some companies don't need to go public. How does that change your strategy for Nasdaq's listing business?
Sure. So when we look at our relationship with companies, we want to make sure that they feel comfortable with us as a partner, as a private company, as well as a public company. And you are right that there are more companies staying private longer and maturing as private companies to make sure that when they do come to the public markets, they're really ready to be a public company and have, the scrutiny as well as the ownership of being a public company. So we have something called the Nasdaq Private Market, and we help companies do private liquidity events as well as manage their equity tables up until they're ready to go public.
So it's basically an onboarding, because Uber's Travis Kalanick, who is a character, says Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg is pushing his company to go public, and he quipped, it took Facebook a long time to go public. Once they did, Zuck has become a huge proponent. Is it misery enjoys company? Now, I know you were not president of Nasdaq when Facebook went public, but do you think that the process has discouraged some founders from going public? Do you think that the younger generation of founders feels disillusioned?
I think it's actually different. I think that they realize that there's a lot of responsibility with being a public company, and that once you sell your part of your company to other shareholders, you are inviting them in to be your owners. And once they become your owners, you have a big responsibility to make sure that you're disclosing all the information that they need to know, that you're doing regular disclosures on a quarterly basis, that you have the proper controls in place to make sure they feel confidence in your company. And that takes for some companies, a lot of process, a lot of change, and they have to be ready. I say that going from being a private company to a public company is going from being on a country road to a 4-lane highway. And you can either do it when you have your learner's permit, or you can do it once you have your driver's license and some hours behind you. And I think that it's really important with the Jobs Act. It's allowed companies to stay private longer so that when they do go public, they feel that they have that driver's license.
And in the private market, as you pointed out, you are helping them prepare so they don't just get on a 4-way high lane like on a moped. But speaking of integrity, whether you're doing business privately or publicly, integrity is a big issue. We've been talking about hacking. Dow Jones got hacked. How does the Nasdaq protect itself? How many times a day does your security team tell you we're fending off or defending these attempts?
Sure. So we are constantly vigilant within Nasdaq, and it starts at the top and goes all the way down through the organization. So it's not just your IT team that has to be vigilant around IT security. The entire company needs to be educated and aware of the risks that could come into the company. But of course, our information security team is incredibly vigilant. So we have vigilance. We also really leverage the community around us, the government community in terms of the government agencies that really work with critical infrastructure players, as well as other key peers that have similar risks. And we talk to each other on a constant basis. And then lastly, we leverage the best technology available to make sure that our systems are secure. But we are not only doing that for ourselves, but we also talk to our community of issuers. So we launched a program called Point that looks at corporate threats that are here today, as well as that could come down in the future. And in light of Information Security Month, our first module of that is going to be around information security.
So do you see, though, as time goes on, for example, now versus a year ago, do you see more threats visible?
I think that you're seeing more. You're seeing more things going on in the marketplace, and I think that the key is to stay completely vigilant and use every technology that's available to you. And there are a lot of great technologies out there. So our view is that that's the best way to protect ourselves.
And your new service, obviously, a part of that. Now, some investors question the integrity of the markets for fundamental reasons, especially if they made their money elsewhere. Real estate mogul Donald Trump saying essentially that he sold most of his stocks.
I sold it in January, and the reason I did is I have so little confidence in our government. That's why I sold it.
Because you don't have confidence in the government?
Because I don't have confidence in our government. The people running our government, I don't have confidence in them. And that's why I sold the stock.
Do you make a connection between our government and the stock market?
I think that it's actually everything is interrelated. So you have to be fair. Government sets the tone and sets regulation, also sets the financial direction of an economy. But then the companies themselves obviously need to be able to maneuver and navigate through that environment and be successful. So I do think it's a combination of a lot of factors.
All right. Well, speaking of politics, as a business person, what is the number one piece of advice you would give to the next president, whether it is Trump or someone else?
I would love to have the opportunity to do that. But I would say that when I really look at what drives our economy forward, it is entrepreneurship and small businesses. And it is critical that the government continue, no matter who the administration is, continue to support and promote small businesses. And that's not just one policy. That includes tax policy, employment policies, the regulatory environment that you have them navigate through, and as well as things like the Jobs Act that allow them to navigate through the private market and then facilitate them going public. So it's a combination of a lot of things that promotes that entrepreneurship.
All right. Well, I do hope you get that chance because every single thing just made a lot of sense. Adena Friedman, thank you so much. President of Nasdaq, joining us there.